I just love you. You guys are having so much fun out there.
G-Mike.
They boy no come on. Look at them boy, me say you me talk to any. See why?
What the man is say?
You me talk to any?
Yeah, man.
And they say them come on.
Yeah, man. We live right now because I don't time already, so we don't worry about it. I just talked to Greg. Greg said come on in the next 15 minutes or something. But then why say yeah, man?
Oh, man. I didn't know you were live, man. You got me the hell kind of craziness here. We have to edit that out, boy. Anyway, good evening. Respect every time. How things on that side? Cool?
Well, yeah, they say I get worse to the weekend. I thought the thing they come up for across town.
Oh man,
so
okay.
You expect a little blizzard and all kind of motherers.
Why when they on Kingdom, then Kingdom hoodies gonna be doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, need then boy.
Your boy Wabi one up and get one ready for Wabi, boy.
Boy, they look nice and warm, man. And
yeah, they want me. They want me.
Then they bring it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Respect you. How the thing gone?
Boy, the thing gone well, boy. Speaking of Wabi, you know, Wabi, me send me one projector.
Yeah.
And the projector finally got the projector set up.
Yeah.
And boy, we view the World Cup under the shading at the back.
Yeah.
After that,
nice.
Boy, it was lovely. But one of the wickedest World Cup games I ever watched. And tell you,
okay.
I'm one France, right? But you can't say nothing because the game was well played.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that thief for Messi because you know tell her because I don't want friends fun, no? But that first penalty me kind of like shady.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
nevertheless, look at and win. But we played that, and right after that, we gone into for we session.
Yeah.
We had one under five for start off, and then the young boy they started kick ball, and that's what we want to do. We want to develop them from that small.
Yeah.
That how them boy forget the World Cup quality.
Yeah.
And you start them from early and
Right,
show
right.
them the way and get an opportunity, place for play. Every school should have a football field in Belize.
Oh, okay.
They should
Yeah,
have a
because
full
but we
sporting.
used to have. But we used to have.
Boy, I don't know because look on Grace Primary. Grace Primary, in fact, they finally moved out of Amara Avenue, but they never got room for classroom over there, much less that. Yet, Miss Grace Edwards pull them from one school that nobody want to go to, one school where everybody may want to go. So, anyway,
Okay, okay.
I see we have company in the house. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah, man.
George is in. Gregory
Good
over there.
evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Um,
Good evening,
I'm,
sir.
I'm still on the road driving.
Oh, okay.
I'll be there in like 15 minutes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks for stopping in and let us know that you're on the way, not catching no accident now. Because, in fact,
No, I won't.
one of the first things I want to cover that incident with the compul. Because I just had an exchange with him. I don't know if you're aware of that, Gregory, but I think,
No, I'm not. I'm not.
all right, the one George, he's not ready yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Yes, man. Go ahead.
You're up on that one.
Actually,
with the
look up on my body, man. Let us send the link.
Okay, and
Well,
yeah,
hey.
man, but when we
I
tell
was
you get
sending
in a studio, Gregory, because
Okay then.
all right, but
Okay.
of course, and today of course is the winter solstice, so that's big,
Yes.
very big. So we talk about that some. You and I, we not that we have to watch out for the scientific view on this thing, but we have the spiritual understanding. So we counter what they have to come up with. Those are the two mischief makers on the other side.
Okay then. I'll see you in a little bit.
Yeah, man. Hey.
Yes.
Boy,
Yeah,
George, man.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Listen,
Talk to me.
but boy, and I went. I tell you, I'm a Ghana. That fisheries 3 days in a row, and I met
Right.
Paris. I met Mr. Paris coming out of a meeting, and I
All right.
explained to him the situation. He recognized me, as a matter of fact. He said, "Follow me, which part are there and all of that." So I said,
Oh, great.
well, I explained to him the ice broke, so we can talk now. The man
right.
said, "Why? Well, we should have some." He said, "But Quintana are the man to talk to." So when I gone upstairs again and tell me, well, the man still in our meeting, I said, well, I understand the meeting just over, and I met Mr. Pierce downstairs. So the man come out finally and he sit down and talk to me, and I had to explain to him. I say, I want this for put behind the goal post, no? Man said, boy, we can't do that. We not got the authority for that. You have to check with Oceana, and they might have to go to court with them. And they say, well, my boy, I'm bringing the net in a court for you if you want. I'm saying, here you go. The Nets were doing something bad. I'm offering something good to do with these Nets. I can't see a problem. I say, and in fact, I had met one of the guys downstairs who told me, yes, they have a few Nets there, but they don't have the authority to give them away. They'd have to go up top, which would be Quintana, no? And then I told him, I say, but I understand from somebody downstairs that you have a couple down there right now. Boy, the man gone out down. So let's go downstairs. Let's go talk to that person and straighten this right now.
Oh, man.
I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to divulge my source. I mean, that
Exactly.
breach your confidence. I said, but
Exactly.
nevertheless, just let it go and don't worry about it. He said, well, we'll get a number, and if anything, we'll call you next year. Of course, I really wanted in place for our games on Sunday, no?
Right.
But why the bureaucracy of it, the red tape we have to endure when you're going through any kind of agencies like that. Well, you've been there.
It's strange, you might. It's strange because, as far as I know, there has been a quote unquote net ban, and this has been a joint venture between a number of parties, including Oceana and Fisheries Department. Fisheries Department has the legal authority to confiscate nets.
They enforce the law.
Yeah. Well, they have the authority to confiscate. They just can't go take away a net. It has to go through the court. But there was a project whereby a number of fishers surrendered their net for compensation.
Okay.
And so perhaps the Oceana gear of it might have come in relation to people who surrendered their net for funding and participation in a fisheries diversification project. So Quintana is not necessarily being disingenuous, but you have to find out, one, whether the nets that are there were a function of somebody being convicted and the nets being confiscated, one, or two, if it's a part of the Oceana initiative. If it's a part of the Oceana initiative, then it gets easy, because then I believe it would be a matter of just simply going to Miss
Janelle Chanona.
Miss Chanona, and then the government bureaucracy would have been expunged. So G Mike, today is Wednesday. Give Janelle one call, and then maybe you could have the nets by weekend.
Yeah, I wanted to because Janelle and I we're friends too, so that wouldn't be a problem.
Very good.
I don't have her number, so I have to try to find it. Though I'm friends with her father even, so that it won't be a problem reaching her. But I will do that. That has been my plan. Like I said, our games are over for the weekend, but we're hoping to have games on a more regular basis now anyway.
Okay.
So we get that.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No. I'm done. I'm saying we're doing it more regular now. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, how did the weekend Christmas function and games go? Unfortunately, Sundays is not a good time for me. I have Sunday schools on Sunday.
Okay.
AKA Dominoes in the evening.
I understand that, and we know how important those are. But no. Why it went well? I mean, you would have been just not like you would have been a part of any function. So that I couldn't understand that, and I would. Yeah, I mean, the games were nice. Really, we had it was a success. We had the games with even on the 5 kids, which was quite entertaining. Then we had the ladies come on and play a game. Well, that was, but the boys really did a number. We had a couple of good games with the under 17 and then the over 17.
Great!
Lover Boy had committed, and in fact, but he got in touch with me about 5. Sometimes after 4. I didn't see the text because I was running around, but it seems like he was staying out about somewhere about 4.5 miles. So I would have had to arrange transportation to get him there and bring him back. The logistics kind of fell apart because my vehicle is not running well, and I'm not going to go for Lover Boy in a vehicle that might break down on the highway. You see what I'm saying? So, and I didn't. I may have to find one taxi befitting his stature to get him over there. And by that time, the crowd had been thinning out anyway, though the band was picking up and playing nicely. And because he said he would have been available for 6:30. I must say this though, that I'm really impressed that he was willing to do it. You see what I'm saying? And he was willing to do it. He doesn't live in Belize City, so apparently does not have a ride here. If I had known earlier, I would have been able to arrange a ride for him.
Yes.
But because of the late time, and this lady Elda Kanaki actually worked it out, and she was gonna sponsor it and all of that. So at the end of the day, I tell her, I could just take a rain check on this one. And do it next time. I would have wanted him there, just because of the fact that I don't like to. But he wasn't promoted as a part of the program until like basically the day before. So
Okay.
there was no big promotion of him being there, or say I was trying to draw somebody there by using a big name, no.
Mm-hmm.
But I was impressed that he would have accepted to be there.
Well, I drove past your lot in the could have been yesterday evening, and this would have been maybe at like 6 o'clock. And my wife was very impressed. Well, the way you have the place decorated with those Christmas lights. And then he said that them Mr. G. Mike live. I said, yes, you know how woman fast, right?
Well,
Become a nice house. I said, well, listen,
boy.
man, G. Mike, that baby Ashcraft, you the deal with
boy.
No, G. Mike, man, you can't keep that
No.
shit.
No.
Come on, G. Mike.
No. Listen. Listen. I know a few people know me. I'm loved by a few people.
Yes, that's for sure.
I believe I'm respected by a number of people, and that is what's most important to me. I'm not wealthy. I don't want to be wealthy.
Well,
I can't see how people that are wealthy sleep at night. I don't.
Wealth is relative.
Relevant. It is relevant.
It's relative, not only relevant. It's relative because Ashcroft himself would be like a dirt poor guy beside Jeff Bezos.
Well,
or Elon Musk, you know.
No. I don't think so. I think after a certain point, wealth the wealth. I believe a Buddy Wilbur once said, "Well, you could buy out at the second billion that you couldn't buy out at the first billion." What exactly? So once you reach a billion, or even say $500 million, you're in a wealth status. So I don't know that you could say Ashcraft is wealthy. Make no mistake.
Well, it's relative to me and you, perhaps, or relative to me. I can't speak for you. You know?
Okay.
You understand what I said, G. Mike? I don't want to contradict you.
No, but I think more than that. I think and Shakespeare had this to say, he who is happiest with the least is happiest of all. If it's relative in that way, that wealth can, I imagine, you can say you're wealthy just by having all that you need or all that you desire. And somebody has said that it's not about what you have, is but how much you want. And if you get what you want, and even if it's little, then that's success. If it's a lot, if you want to get filthy rich, then I guess you're not success, even if you're wealthy.
Well, it's a function of one, how you describe wealth, and two, there are obviously certain criteria across the board, because wealth means that you would have had some surplus, at least in the context of financial wealth. And so when you look at Mr. Ashcroft, and you look at the World Cup, for example, I understand that some of those stadiums were in the billions.
Yes.
That the Emir and his family built in Qatar. So, I'm just saying that relative to these people, Mr. Ashcroft is really a heavyweight in Belize and to some extent in Britain. But really, when you look at the wealthy set, he would not be among even the middle aspect of the wealthy set. So I'm not saying that he's poor relative to us.
Yeah.
Wealthy, but not that wealthy.
He's a big fish in a small pond.
That's a very good descriptor.
Yeah, sure. But I don't believe that those people over there that's flaunting all that wealth, and given that they gave us a show, I have a big problem with it, man. And babies starving, and then they raise gas prices so high.
Who you have a problem with? Who you mean in Doha?
Yeah,
they don't have any poverty over there.
Well, that's it. But still, but we have poverty over here. There's
Yes,
poverty all over the world. There's only one earth we share in the air, you know. This I
I
know. This I know. Your side of the ship to sink.
I
Um,
agree with you.
so I'm saying the problem is that they are so filthy rich, and the things that they're buying, the money, the opulence is obscene.
I don't know that it's obscene. You know, there are different perspectives on this because you could be wealthy one day. If you look at the source of their wealth, is obviously
Oil,
oil.
right?
If the world heads in a direction meaningfully of alternative energy, solar, wind, tidal, that oil becomes of less value and it could be a steep decline. So I understand that, you know, wealth is what it is, but you don't necessarily just give away, um, you don't give away money or money's worth. So if you're qualifying in a sense what you consider to be evil, that wealth is indeed evil, I would have to disagree with you. Wealth is power.
I've never said that, and
Right?
I don't believe that money is the root of all evil, but I do believe that love of money is the root of all evil,
Well,
and there's a good reason for that. Um, what I'm saying to you, and I don't talk about take money and go hand out. I remember one guy.
right.
I don't know if you remember a guy named Jack Palance. They call him Jack Palance.
Yeah, I remember him.
He used to do drugs in the States, and he came with a milk box of money and was giving out $50 per Albert Street. I
Right,
don't see that kind of charity as doing any good.
right.
I see as establishing universities, establishing schools in poor neighborhoods,
Yes,
establishing feeding programs for children in poor neighborhoods. That can be done with the kind of money within people they got. Instead, they use it to influence politicians to get their own way in other countries. You see
well,
the
well,
point? Go ahead.
well, I would say that you have to understand what poverty is at the personal level. Poverty is not necessarily the lack of money, but poverty is an appreciation of not understanding the power of money. If you give a man $1 million, some dude on Albert Street $1 million today, you know, yeah, he am broke because he
You
don't understand the value of money.
give me and
So,
I bet you $1 million. I know, broker.
well, I'm just saying that
But I
that
might be because I
poverty,
might be. I
poverty
might
has
be.
to be defined, and
I
most of us see poverty as bad. Man no got no money, but really you have to ask yourself, why you no got no money? You
well,
understand?
listen, but you're looking at it, and we're getting off into another area of this now, because I agree with you. Listen, many people are poor with good reason.
Right,
Um, I see a poor lady down the street always bumming and whatnot, but having a big party for a daughter, for a 4-year-old child who never understand what the party about.
right,
Big bashman, just to spend a lot of money on food and liquor, just for enjoy themselves. But
right.
and that the next day she's out there again bumming. That lady is poor with good reason. You know, I
Right.
I personally believe, my understanding, I believe that God has enough money to bless everybody to the extent that they need to be blessed or deserve to be blessed. Let me see, because it might be deserve instead of need. Um, I so if listen, I'm not saying go hand out people money, but I'm saying if I was in that position, my oil would be selling for a little less, man. You know, they get to the point where they stop producing oil sometimes to drive up the cost.
Well, of course, it's a part of business. They are wealthy because they are good businessmen.
Oh
In
man,
the
you sound like
concept,
Trump. You sound
no,
like
no, no,
Trump.
no, 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 no.
You sound like
You
Trump when
see,
he said he was smart by not paying no
no,
taxes.
well, no, 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 no. You're overgeneralizing. Um, the market. You know what it is called? It's called a cartel. The cartel is really a crime, and it's really just a bunch of guys basically saying we own the energy resources of the planet, and for us to remain where we need to be in terms of wealth and in terms of power, we need to control the market, which is supply and demand.
So how
If
did they get in control of that?
Well, remember, it's organizational. It started in the it really started in the 70s,
Right.
OPEC,
Right.
when they realized that, you know what, we own, you know, the oil resources is under the desert, and we own it, and we could make political statements by saying to the West, you know what, you don't have the power, we have the power. Your economy is run on energy. And if we control the supply of energy, then we also control the price. And so that is where the root of it is. It's really a function of reminding us who is in charge. I do not agree with where oil prices are right now, and I do not agree with the politics of it. You could choose sides in terms of the Ukraine conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but that is really the source of the scarcity, and that is really the source of where we are in terms of prices
of oil.
And I believe that in their own interests.
But George, hold on, because you're saying that the oil was under the desert, and it's all these guys over there who control it and has a cartel over there that's wielding their power. How does Ukraine and Russia fit into that?
Well, remember, Russia is pumping oil to.
Yeah, but that's a small percentage.
No, it's not a small. Well, let me say, Russia is pumping hydrocarbon. It's really natural gas.
Right.
You know, we're in a winter right now, so I'd use the wrong term. Russia is a source of oil and natural gas. What is important to Europe and the European economy is really natural gas. What we have to do is to understand that the market is a commodity, and it's controlled by a narrow group of guys who basically are saying, well, there's a war going on, and if there's a war going on, then we will hoard and we will hold the market for oil and natural gas. Well, the natural gas situation is a geopolitical situation where the United States is basically saying, don't worry yourself too greatly, Europe. We will supply your natural gas. Don't worry about Russia. So it's a little complicated, but at the end of the day, Russia, Russia to win, at least in terms of the economic side of it.
Because that's not what I saw on CNN.
Well, you see where you mentioned the magic word, CNN
or MSNBC.
Yeah, you know that a number of European countries cannot afford to not buy from Russia.
Yeah.
And so Russia has actually gotten wealthier selling energy because they have jacked up the price. All right, so it depends. So militarily, Russia is definitely not winning. But from
I don't know if that's a definitely neither. That's not a definite.
Yeah, for real.
Based on the
we listen to Western press.
Exactly. So, but what I'm hearing you saying though, and it's interesting because, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically saying that even when they manipulate the goods and services as such, that is only good business practice.
Well, to some extent, G-Mike, because what is happening right now, and me and you got people in the United States. One of our ballet told me, he said, man, a loaf of bread gone, and I just call a number, I kind of remember. He said, a loaf of bread gone from $1.67 to $4.
Right.
And that's a cruel inflation going on in the United States. And I thought that, well, definitely it has a bearing on politics. And we see what has happened in the November election, where the House has gone to the Republicans because of sort of cost of living issues. So what I'm saying, G-Mike, is that you could only win to a certain extent if the price of oil if the price of energy, hydrocarbon related energy, get to a certain level, then even if the guys who have the supply loses, because if they throw the economy of the United States and the economy of Europe into a tailspin, you know what that means? That means less demand. So even when you want to sell your oil, the economy is in a tailspin. There's no demand for it. The demand for it has greatly eroded.
So
it's like a chess match. It's a chess match. You have to know where the balance is.
Explain something to me, because you're more the economist than I am.
Well,
when you have a depression, right? There's no less money in the world. There's no more people in the world. How does that come about? Because then obviously everything that we had the week before is still there, but 1 week after, everybody's screaming bloody hell and things are falling apart. What causes that?
Well, some of it, G Mike, is happens because people are speculating and they're basically saying, you know what, there's a shortage of rice. But really, there's no shortage of rice. What is happening is, in the context of Belize, is that the guys who sell rice to Belize are basically saying, let us hold on to our rice in the United States or wherever you get rice from. And so the merchants down here are basically saying, well, you know what? I have the same amount of rice that I had last week. But 3 weeks from now, I don't know what the supply of rice will be. So rice becomes scarce and I will jack up the price because you fear, me and you, G Mike, we fear starvation. And we fear not having enough to eat. And so we are grumble and we are grumble, and when we're going to pay $1 for rice, the next thing you know, we're pay $3 and we're grumble and grumble. What it means for me and you, G Mike, is that we are getting poorer because our income source has not expanded. In many cases, they lay off and they cut wages. You know, so it's a lot of it is speculation, G Mike. A lot of it is speculation.
Yeah, so it's not a real depression as such. It's not
scarcity. It's not scarcity. It's from the standpoint of the middle market. It's really the middle market guys, you know, G Mike.
Well,
but I'll give you a good example. When I was working at Fisheries, a huge part of my responsibility was in relation to shrimp farms and shrimp farming. In the good days, a pound of shrimp on the United States market was selling for $8-10 a pound. The middlemen begin buying shrimp from Belize, and they basically flooded the market. And when they flood the market, G Mike, you know what happened? When they flood the market, price gone down. And the price gone down to the extent at one point, G Mike, where it didn't even make sense to produce the shrimp, because the price was less than production costs. And I think you could use that same argument in principle for oil, for just about any commodity which get traded on the New York Stock Exchange and in Tokyo and in London and in Russia, you know. It's the guys who control the market.
While we talk money, let me get your opinion on the $5 hour minimum wage proposal. I suppose to go into effect in January. What do you see will be the result of this? Will it be positive or will it drive goods up even further?
Well, there's an economic and there's a political side to it, G Mike. The economic side to it is that the majority of goods that consumers need, and I mean basic good, food, services included, they are not controlled. They are not controlled at all. That's the first thing. The second thing is that even the controlled prices, there's nobody really policing that, G Mike. The police for the cost of living, G Mike, is the Bureau of Standards. If the Bureau of Standards have 20 employees, they have lot. When you think about 20 employees for the entire country for 8,867 square miles, for a population of 400,000 people and counting, you know that is ineffectually enforcement side of it.
Well,
so
that's go ahead.
Yeah. What I see is that as soon as the merchants decide that you have gotten your $5 minimum wage, what they will do, they will jack up prices. That's the economic side of it. And so understand also, G Mike, that only government again raise a pay. The private sector not again will raise a pay. And so prices will be jacked up. And so the government people will come away with no net benefit in the short to medium term future. But the government, the political wing of capitalism will do nothing about it. Why am I saying this, G Mike? The same guys will control the merchant community, I call it the merchant minority, the Chinese, the traditional Middle Eastern people here. G Mike, these are the people who make or break politicians or make or break political parties. So whoever is in government cannot act against the interests of those people who fund their campaign.
You have to tread lightly.
22.
You have to tread lightly, no?
Yeah, they have to.
Will it be a plus or will it be a negative across the board?
G Mike, when I was in the I think that it will be a negative. When I was in the union, G Mike, sometimes I am not necessarily a team player in many ways. When we were agitating for what they call a cost of living adjustment, they never want to call it a raise of pay. I was saying, well, even before you could speak seriously to the powers that be at the time, it was Mr. Barrow and his administration. I told them what you have to do, and we have to have a serious conversation about price control. If the basket of goods is 80, we need to revisit that and see where all we don't want the merchants and gouge upon. One.
Right.
And two, we have to agitate that the Bureau of Standards do two things. Their monitoring, surveillance, and enforcement staff have to expand. One. And two, we have to deputize policemen to go into these establishments and check prices. The police in general, has the authority to enforce laws across the board. In many instances, they have to be deputized, but they also have to be trained. So G Mike, it's not pessimism as much as I think the status quo is not set up to benefit poor people.
Oh, well, yeah, well, we know that. The poor people are used for the most part. I don't think rich people understand the real importance of poor people, though, that the world cannot get along without the very poor people that seem to be oppressing into annihilation, if you will. I'm looking at the $5 minimum wage, and what I didn't realize is how many people are making less than $5 an hour. I've never paid anybody less than $5. Well, I pay a person what I think they owe, no, what they deserve. And I can't see, if you talk about $3.30 an hour and you work 8 hours, you talk about less than $30 for a day. How can you work somebody for less than that? But I realize now that there are many people working at that minimum wage. And I heard some girls celebrating in a Chinese shop, and they were saying, yeah, well, we at January the corn now, we really make some money. And boy, it's pathetic, because $5 will only bring you to 40, no?
That is exactly what well, remember, G Mike, that that $5 minimum wage might put people in a certain tax bracket. So if they never pay, less than 25,000 or less than 20,000 a year, I believe, you're not paying no income tax. But once you jump that threshold, you say that's 25,000, then you start paying taxes.
But $5 not going to do that.
Good evening, gentlemen. We have in the house, of course, troublemaker extraordinaire, Mr. Leonard Brackett. The Wiz himself.
Not Mr. Brackett, sir. Not he's not a troublemaker.
What? You see? Anyway, the chief, defendant Gregory. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Welcome, gentlemen. We're discussing. We jumped off into the $5 an hour minimum wage.
Yes.
And what effect it will have in Belize. The sad thing is that America is what now, about $15 an hour, fighting
well,
for 20?
It depends on the state you are in. So California, New York, and those states are 15 and 18. But there are some southern states, the Texas, Arizona, and some of those other places that are still around about $10 an hour.
Which is not...
The federal minimum wage is only $8.50. You know that, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
And
The
so
minimum.
individual states have their own minimum wages then.
Yes. Individual states set up the minimum, and then the federal set a floor for what the minimum should be.
I see. So it
Of course,
can't be less than 8 or
It
something
can't
like
be less than 850 throughout the entire country.
that. Okay.
as a comparison for Belize, you got to remember that we got to double that, right? So the
Yeah.
15 to 18 would be 30 to 36 per hour minimum.
But
A lot of people make a hell of a lot more than that.
But I would never make that type of comparison, Mr. Brackett, because
Well,
your cost of a home in a house to live in the United States is going to cost you $900 to $600, the cheapest for a one bedroom, right?
The only reason for interjecting that was because of the fact that it's always double. And when you're talking about dollars and cents and comparison,
Yeah. Well,
and people just like to say, well, it's $5 an hour. Now we're going to get in Belize. That's $5 Belize.
Yeah. Well, it's all related.
Which
to
is long overdue.
GDP and all that. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you agree with it, Brackett? You agree that they should raise the minimum wage to 5?
It's a tricky scenario because when the government gets behind it, it's like the government is pushing a higher wage bracket for those who are at the minimum level. People will still work for less than that under certain circumstances. But the bottom line is that the government then is setting a threshold under which the power of the government comes to bear against anyone who violates that rule. But the problem is that people cannot really live in Belize, as I've just not only just discovered, but I mean, I just went through a sequence of surveys that I do on an annual basis, and it's pathetic to see that people are still having to live on that, and at $3 and something cents Belize. I mean, it's just crazy. It's not realistic.
Yeah. Again, that's things to factor in. It's not just as cut and dried.
Yeah. It's
that.
not.
There are quite a few things that you have to take into consideration. So
they have people that live in India and those places for $2 and $1 an hour.
$1 a day, some places.
And that's what I meant to say.
Yeah,
and their life is
Well,
they have a home. They eat, they drink.
Well, before we went into this, what led us into this was George and I were talking about the wealth and whatnot, because I was talking about how obscenely wealthy the people in the Middle East, in Qatar and those places are, and how much money they spent on this recent World Cup. And while at the same token, now we have, by the same token, we have children dying in the streets, no?
Yeah.
For lack of basic food.
And many of the countries that support soccer many of the countries that support soccer were complaining that they can't afford to watch it on TV. They had to go to a community space to kind of enjoy the sports they love, because the subscription from the television companies was over a wage for like a year of what some of them would have been earning,
Yeah. Well, it might have worked out well for them that they had some time to gather and hang out with friends, no?
Yeah. But I'm just saying we could compare things as much as we want, but sometimes it's not even relevant to try to make the type of comparison. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, George.
Very true.
Who was George? You're saying something?
Right.
No, I was saying that's very true. I was
agree
agreeing with Mr. Morrison.
You're breaking up, George. Go ahead.
Of Mr. Morrison. Mr. Morrison basically saying that certain places the minimum wage is like $1 or $2. I don't know if he said that, but it's less than
people are living on that.
$1 or $2 US. I think that what you have to watch is really the cost of living. And I'm saying this because while I was in the UK studying at one point, there was this a colleague of mine from India. He was on a lucrative scholarship. I was on a scholarship of £400 per month. You could live off of £400 per month. he was on a scholarship of £1,200, I believe, could have been a World Bank scholarship. Basically, what he said to me is that over 2 years, he will go back and build a house. So I was asking him, like, how big this house? And he's like, well, you know, it's like the equivalent of a 3-bedroom house. And I'm like, well, how this cost? And he basically said, if I have 2,000 US, I could build a luxurious house in India. What if wherever you live? So I just think that you need to qualify these things.
Exactly.
You know, in context of there's a global picture.
Yes.
Jeffrey Sachs, who is a renowned economist who advises the United Nations, basically says that the minimum bar that you want to set is $2 per day. Per day, you know. And that's US per day.
Yes.
That is his poverty mark.
Yeah.
And he did not really go into how he arrived at $2. It would have been interesting to see what his thesis was. Long story short, this is something that you really can't generalize about, because if we were to embrace what Jeffrey is saying, then we would be going backwards. Because on an 8-hour day, you would be working for a couple cents per hour. So I'm just saying that, you know, we have to watch this. Among other things, I think that when you look at Belize, the per capita income for Belize, as I had said previously, was 5,000 US per annum.
Yes.
In the United States, I want you to help me here, Mr. Morrison and Mr. Brackett. I think when I looked at it, it could have been like 60,000.
No, it's not that high. It's probably about 24 GDP per capita income. Well,
all right. Let's I don't doubt you, but I know that places like Taiwan and the Bahamas, it's 30,000. So, but the point that I'm making is that, you know, you don't necessarily want to compare Belize with the United States, because there are so many variables. You know, one is really a third world country, and the next one is the most developed and prosperous nation in the world. So you have to watch the dynamics.
Used to be.
They still are, you know.
They're not. But again, let's put it this way: they're not the only player in the game anymore.
No, they're not the only player. But yeah.
They're the big.
Well, in terms of per capita income, when I looked at it at one point, which is not the only metric that you would use to judge wealth and power, but when you look at per capita income, most of the European nations were better off than the United States. I think when I looked at it maybe a year or two ago, the United States ranked like 18 or 19.
Yeah, they're falling. They're falling.
You know, so they were not top tier, but when I say most powerful, they are the most powerful economically and militarily.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway,
Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback on Mr. Margaret's comment?
By all means.
The comment he made a little earlier about Mr. Jeffrey Sachs working for the UN and making the recommendation that they could stipulate a $2 US, which would be $4 Belize, as the ground level for poverty level.
Yes.
Did Mr. Sachs ever consider the possibility of such a person at that ground level being able to afford an iPhone anytime in his lifetime? I mean, I'm just trying to be facetious, you know.
No. It's a very good point you're making, Mr. Brackett. Because I think what comes with that is across nations, there are variation in terms of the quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one advantage of living in a developed country is that the material quality of life is obviously markedly better than living in a developing state. So, Mr. Just for statistical purposes, Mr. Morrison, the per capita income of the United States
It's about 35,000.
No, it's 70,400.
No, that's not correct. The per capita income is about 37,000. I just looked it up.
Well, all right, hold on.
One is using Google, the other is using Wikipedia.
All right. So like he's saying it's a half. The China is 19,000.
Yeah.
And the UK is 49,000. So I think it's a function of where we're getting this information from.
Well, yeah. Well,
that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, the UK is one of the richest country in the world. You know.
But not. It's not richer than the United States.
No, it's not richer, but for
source.
population. Look at their population. 60 million or so, right?
Yeah, but remember, per capita income is the sum total of all the goods and services divided by the population.
That's correct. That's why I said.
I'm looking at another metric here. Wikipedia is saying that it is $68,309. United States for 2021. But we don't want to split hairs over. I think
no, that's fine. That's fine. We're just reading different information.
I think the principle of it is that the United States is much more wealthy than Belize. and so
I believe we can
California.
You can agree on that.
If California was a country, it would be the sixth wealthiest country per capita.
Yeah,
Interesting.
It used to be the 8th. It moved up apparently.
Anyway, all right. Listen, gentlemen, we can move on to something here. Greg, we were talking about the commissioner of police. I had an exchange with him earlier, similar to the one he had with Jules. And let me give you a backdrop of what's going on here. He was on the highway and he crossed over a double solid line and was involved in an accident with a vehicle coming onto him. Obviously not a very serious accident, but the question was he in the wrong or was he legally correct? His contention is that there's nothing wrong with what he did because there's nothing in the law that says you cannot cross that double white line.
I think even it's
double yellow line.
In the United States we got the same issue. I think you can cross it, but you have to be cautious. I think that's the case of it. The single white line you could cross. The double white line you have to show like extreme caution. I know the double yellow line or the yellow line, you have to be very careful about that, and you might even be illegal to cross the double yellow line.
No,
very much so.
It's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, George.
No, but I was just kind of reflecting on the word of the law and the spirit of the law. I think that I get the sense that the public should observe a certain norm, and it sounded to me like the compol was not observing that.
Exactly.
And for me, you can't have one measure for the general public, and another measure for a guy we're gonna study law, and he's back. I think that what is necessary is there's good reason why the Governor General not drive and shouldn't drive, Because can you imagine the Governor General like driving and knocking somebody down and being at fault? And the compol, I think that the compol should be assigned a driver.
But you can't. You don't even have to. You don't have to go that far. A member of the U.S. Consul, the U.S. Embassy, knocked down a person and killed that person. That person in Belize could not be charged because of diplomatic immunity. So that's even to that point.
But it doesn't mean didn't mean they didn't make compensation if they were wrong.
Well, we hope that he did, but the person left the country, immediately after that.
Yeah, But I think
I don't want to lose the point that you have to be careful with certain officials, because if it was maybe the compol, it could have been something more critical. And how do you have a sergeant of police arresting the compol?
Well, you can. I mean, he's not above the law.
Well, I'm saying that you should shelter him. You should shelter. You understand? You understand the pickle that we are in, Mr. Brackett? I believe that the compol should have a driver assigned.
All right, but that
But what
that
about on
costs
his
more for the
private?
budget. That I'm
You
blue
want
and
to
holding
assign
our
him a
budget.
driver 24 hours? I mean, I don't say there is not issue, there is not problem to assign him a driver. I remember in the past, the people that were the commissioner of police and senior
Yes.
inspector and such, they had drivers that dropped them home. I remember
Yes.
that.
yeah,
And that's for a good reason.
and back in
That's
that
for a
time,
good
to the
reason.
driver would also have to take the vehicle to the police station and park it till it ready
Yep.
to drive
Yeah.
again. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Mr. Brackett made a good point that it would also add to the wage bill to
Exactly.
have a driver for people like that. And the company,
Well-
I don't think would want to be driven. And he's that kind of guy there.
Yeah.
Um,
And as I
yeah,
said, there's
It's about
the work
office, not
time.
the compulsory person. It's about the office. We are protecting the public
Well,
interest.
we understand that. Yeah, but at what cost? No.
You understand?
No, but there are two times.
It's very
There's
critical,
work
very
time.
important that point, Mr. Marvitt, though.
No, because there are two times. There's work time and there's private time. I don't want to pay for a driver. I don't mind a driver for him during the work time, but an accident could happen during his off time too, when he's on his private
Uh,
self.
Well,
I agree with you, Mr. Morrison, but when he's leaving work or going to work, it's the same as if when a minister or any other
Yes,
ministerial
I
power
agree.
person is traveling from work or to work. I agree with you totally about the off hours, which is like after his work hours, and beyond his traveling time.
Well, to me, the compul is always
Well-
on the clock, in some respect. But I don't want
yeah.
it. I don't think he needs a driver when he's presumably off from work. But to me, those type of senior level people are always on the clock dealing with issues and going to the office. And
But there's a critical reason why that is desired to be like that, because we don't want the budget to be blown by.
Exactly.
Because when people get into accident, it creates a legal bills to the government. It creates all kind of secondary stuff, and it blows the budgets. Each of these departments have a budget,
But
Yeah.
you,
and those
you
department
know,
budget is contingent on the government overall budget.
Yeah, and I don't think the government carry liability insurance on
no,
this.
no. Listen, but George, and the commissioner is making opposite point of what you're saying. He's saying that you guys are condemning him because he's the commissioner, and that because he's in such a high position, people are saying he should be charged.
No, that shouldn't be the case, though, Mr. Chairman, because the fact is that he should be treated just like any other person under the law. The fact that he's a senior law officer doesn't mean that he's above the law.
Well, I think we need to figure out.
I
we need
believe
to
that if you
figure
look at
out
the cost and the
specifically.
benefit of it,
Yeah.
if you look,
Yeah, you broke up my and they broke up. I don't know where they're going.
I think we need to figure out specifically whether his action of crossing the line was in fact an offense, infraction of the driving.
Actually, it's not. It's
He
not.
was trying to hide behind that fact.
Then there's
There is a
nothing wrong
probability
with-
that it may not be an offense
Then there's nothing to
on
hold
the
him to.
books. On the
No,
books.
it might not be an offense
the
legally.
books is
And that's what he
everything.
was trying to
But
hide behind.
morally-
But the bottom line is that
but
too many other
morally-
Belizeans that are at a lower rank
No, come on,
have been
guys.
pulled
Come
over
on,
by
guys. Come
by
on.
police officers for doing just the
Either
very
it
same
is-
thing without causing an accident.
No. There's they could always get you for driving if you're not paying due care and attention, no matter what the
law says.
No, I'm talking about the lines.
marking is on the road. If for some reason his action contributed, he did something that contributed by not having proper judgment at the time, was speeding, was not paying
Impaired
enough
or whatever.
attention, did not give himself enough allowance to cross back over. All of those are driving ethics that he should have followed. Go ahead.
If you look from it from the standpoint of principles, though, and you look at a worst case scenario, let us say it was not the line, but he knocked somebody down at fault. I don't think Compul should be in that position where he goes through like everybody is, and which is why I believe that I stick to the guns to say let us go back to why the British crafted it the way they crafted it. We are looking at least you guys are saying, well, there's a cost to this. Well, really, I can tell you that many departments have professional drivers.
Yes.
Their duty is to drive.
Yes.
And I believe that one person who should be assigned, I believe that very senior public officers should be assigned drivers at the point that they are not on duty, as in they're on holiday. Then you could vary that. But in as their work goes, and Gregory, you kind of pointed at it, I could tell you that as a senior public officer, I am on call 24/7. I was on call, which means that I could have been called out of my bed any hour, which means that I will tell you that the compol is one of those persons that doesn't have an 8 to 5 assignment.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Given the choice of assigned driver versus an assigned driver part, let's go for an assigned driver 24/7 while he is on duty and while he's committed to his office. When he's on holiday, then maybe there could be something else.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
I hear what you're saying. I kind of disagree.
Like that. We just gave the chairman's favorite hero, favorite icon. We just gave Michael Ashcroft $80 million of poor people money. I don't know to worry about 10 drivers. When I'm $1 million when you got it all up.
Well, you know why? Because they're gonna buy a new vehicle for them.
The chairman
and
silent.
No, let me finish this point.
No,
what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? They're gonna buy a new vehicle for them, and then in 2 years they're gonna sell the vehicle to their friends for cheap, and we're gonna have to buy a new vehicle again. That will cost the country another couple.
That is standard practice in Belize.
Yeah,
does make it
Very
right.
good.
Does make it right.
Very
All
good.
right, let's go on. Jan Saldiva again.
You can recall.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
This boy that like Trump. He just
Who,
moved
Mr.
away.
Chairman?
Jan
Who?
Saldiva. Jan Saldiva went and he got
He's like a
permission to run again.
Yeah.
When is the convention? Was the convention held already?
Was supposed to have been held.
know
I
the
think it's in
voting
February.
was-
Somebody.
The convention wasn't
I
held.
read it on.
The voting that was disqualifying. The people voted that overruled the small board that voted to disqualify him. A larger body gathered
The
and
National Party
overruled that.
Council.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I imagine he presented a case that they had to consider, no?
Yeah.
And then they backed down and said that. Can this man, can he win?
Well, that's for them to determine. But I'll tell you,
Wait, Mike.
I don't have a
I
problem
wanted
with
to
Jan
go back to
Saldiva.
that. So, he presented a case. Did he have a case, G. Mike?
To answer, not
Are you
yet.
privy to what his arguments might have been? I wouldn't say case, okay,
well-
because it seems to me, from the bits and pieces that I got, it seems to me that there were some machinations. So Kobe and Mr. Brackett might have some insight here. Kobe was basically said, Kobe Bryant, Bamapan basically said, I have no interest in contesting any
Well, he got
any
pushed out.
convention because he would have been the likely competitor.
But
Yeah.
he's also a John man.
So there were machinations. Yes, John brought him in.
He's a young man, and he
But-
figured I could wait my turn. If the general is stepping up, I will wait my turn.
Mhm.
You know.
You think
Good
so?
analysis, Mr.
But let me
Morrison.
say something. I have no problem with Jan Saldiva running, and I believe
Really?
that no. Let me tell you why. I believe that what we have seen from Jan Saldiva is what continuously goes on in Belize politics and Belize political financing.
Perfectly stated.
He's not an exception. He's not an exception. And when they prosecute Jan Saldiva, they're picking on one person when we need the entire system to be fixed.
Right on.
So that there's never again anything like what Jan Saldiva did occurring within our political sphere and the country control for monitoring campaign
Mr.
financing.
Could you repeat that again, Mr. Morrison? Because I don't want to jump on you
Mr.
incorrectly. Could you repeat just what you said just now?
I said I have no problem with Jan Saldivar running because he represents what is truly the natural behavior of every politician in Belize. He's not an exception. He's not an exception. There's nothing he did that the others have not done. Okay? They all finance their political election.
I cannot agree with that. Mr.
What did you
Everybody
say?
need to observe the same rules.
But they're all doing the same thing. I could find you examples of where they have done it. We have seen the example of the guy leaving with suitcase of millions of dollars. We've seen where the Venezuelan government gave us $10 million and they fanned it through some measure so that the money could come back to finance their political party. We have seen this.
We're flagging some dead horses. And
No.
They're not dead horses. They're just example, like Mr. Morrison said.
No, because if that's the case, then we could argue that because I see that a different way. Go ahead, Judge. Go ahead.
I see it a different way too. I think Morrison is flagging a fictional horse, not a dead horse.
Okay.
He's flagging a fictional horse because you would recall.
I could show you other financing. That I could show you other.
The ideal scenario there, Mr. Chairman and members of the panel, the ideal scenario there would have been for the U.S. to have just gone ahead and based on the evidence that they have, asked for an extradition of the gentleman and having prosecuted based on their evidence in their court and to hopefully have their case stand up and he become declared guilty. Then Belize could have jumped on him and say, okay, on the basis of a guilty
but we're
scenario,
going through this again. We gone through this the last time, man. That we gone through that.
Yes, but you can't prosecute Mr. Saldivar in Belize for what everybody else is doing and don't prosecute everybody else. That's the point.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
And unless we're going to change the rules
hold on.
or reinforce the rules so that kind of behavior doesn't continually happen.
Yes, we need to do that. But you can't say we can't prosecute one if we don't prosecute all. That makes no sense.
You could always stop one person for speeding when there's 25 speeding.
Yes, and then you use that one as an example. That's all. If that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
but you can't.
But it's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, right, but life is not fair. I mean, really, when you look at it like that, no?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the legal system, we can't be emotional about it. We got to deal with black and white facts.
Yeah, but the big problem,
the legal system,
the big issue I have about it is that the United States. I don't want the United States to be the arbiter of what happens and what's right in Belize body politics.
All right, I would say amen to that, which has been my advocacy. But again, on this topic,
it's fine that they will say don't come to my country, but it's not fine.
That's their prerogative.
Yeah, but it's not fine based on that for Belize to prosecute him. That's my position.
I believe. Well, I would have to respectfully disagree with Mr. Morrison, and I will have to shake the confidence of the chairman that I'm a perpetual defender of Mr. Brackett because I have to disagree with him also. The premise upon which there's
a little bit of light between you guys now.
Mr. Morrison, the premise upon which Mr. Morrison is making his argument is to suggest that all sins are equal. And I would submit to you that if Mr. Saldivar was running drugs and he was running a ton of cocaine into the United States,
that's different.
There would have been a submission for extradition.
Yeah,
but Mr. Saldivar has actually violated some other code.
We don't even know what Mr. Saldivar did specifically.
Is that you will not be admitted back into the United States. So no. I think Mr. Brackett basically said that he should have been extradited and prosecuted. I'm saying that it has not reached that mark.
I'm not saying that, sir, please. I'm not saying that he should have been extradited. You got too far now. You overdo it. I'm saying that the ideal scenario for the U.S.
No, but you're saying that he should be
to give Belize
but to the United States and prosecuted. And I'm saying,
Belize cannot prosecute Mr. Saldivar unless they get him for FIU violations.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that they can get him on.
Well, this is what you're saying.
And the ministerial
I am saying that it has not reached
power for a minister to decide what to do.
Charging Belize.
That's it.
He has not
He can't be charging Belize. There's no laws that he has broken. Which was the point that I've been trying to establish from the very get-go on this conversation.
I wouldn't say there's no laws that you have broken.
But him not being charged.
Okay. Well,
but him not being charged doesn't mean that he hasn't broken any law or that he's innocent.
You know, let's get to something.
Mr. Saldivar was in a privileged position.
Yeah. Let's get to something that George alluded to earlier. The law, the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. I believe he has broken the spirit of many laws. The whole money laundering issue comes to light. The taking of money, of course, there are no campaign finance laws, but there ought to be. Let me put it that way.
Exactly. There should be. And political party registration.
I think so. Yeah. So listen, and I think that there have been enough rumors circling around Saldivar's head like buzzards. That
which judge can you take a rumor to and hope that he'll rule based on the rumor and your belief, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman,
sir,
so
is that too much of a hard question to answer?
Equivalent to all of them. He is really the baddest of the bad apples.
No, he's not.
Oh man!
No, he's not. No,
he is.
No.
Who else has been suspended from the party? Who else has been suspended from cabinet?
That's different. Didn't Pena get suspended
for
passport?
No, it's the same thing.
Didn't Pena get suspended?
Yeah. Let's see who all has been suspended and for what reason.
It comes to the same thing. It comes to the same thing. Trying to get money to support the re-election. It's coming on the same thing.
That is what he said. That is what he
said. The Asian man was sitting in a jail and being provided a passport. And the man that provided him the access to getting the passport has not been impugned, much less prosecuted.
Yeah.
No, but here we trying to recreate history.
Who was that, Brackett?
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
Pena.
Who was that?
So we're not trying to create mischief. When
the Chinese gentleman, Mr. Kim.
When Mr. Morrison's difficult with Mr. Saldivar was appalled.
Well, not Chinese because he's an Asian person. That's why I try to make sure I didn't classify him as a Chinese because he was not Chinese necessarily. You know, being an Asian doesn't mean you're a Chinese. There's a lot of different other countries besides China and Asia.
You're sure you're going on?
So I don't want to be misunderstood.
You're sure you're going on? You're trying to make your point 5 minutes ago.
I'm trying to clarify.
No, but that's disrespectful. It's disrespectful
I was
to the
trying
intelligence.
To get to the point that Mr. Morrison was making that he not got no problem with Mr. Saldivar, and I feel that character does come. We call these people honorable for a reason, and I don't think that anybody could justifiably assign the title of honorable to Mr. Saldivar.
At that point, we have to dismiss the entire house for the most part.
But here you go again, you can't look everybody in at the same bracket.
No.
Mr. Saldivar, we know of. That's
they all pay people to vote for them. They all are giving out money so that you go and vote for me.
But that's not illegal.
I wonder if the people in my country Belize have any idea where most of the money come from to finance political undertakings.
It's not illegal.
I wonder if they really understand and know where those monies are coming from.
It's not illegal.
And how legal those monies are, how clean those money are, and whose salary is being used to finance their undertaking. That was in the Moody days. 50 years ago. That doesn't happen today anymore.
When we try to fix one problem, you guys cite 10 more problems that has nothing to do with the problem that we're trying to fix.
I agree with you. I agree with you on this one.
Bring in UNCAF.
We're just
force the man in hand and force them to bring in UNCAF.
No. Let us
otherwise, they keep on running circles around us with the same problem over and over.
Mr. Saldivar as an example. He's the latest one. Let us use Mr. Saldivar as an example and prosecute him.
Sir, Mr. Mybit, I can give you right now, off of my archives, a number of recent cases and situations that deserve the same treatment. If that's how we want to go. Of course, the law no allow you to go retroactively.
Hold on. That has nothing to do with the issue at hand, though. And this, I agree with you on this, Mavi. Just because everybody else is doing it, that does not justify the other person doing it.
I agree with that. And I'll tell you,
did the US go after Mr. Penna?
Mr. Brackett talk about UNCA. I am not one for it because I believe I know we need to do something and it needs to be done locally.
No, but it can't be.
UNCA, no, this is what I'm saying. Because UNCA means that you're delegating your justice system.
No.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Local legislation, Mr. Morrison.
No, you make local legislation, but who gets the justice? It is the people that are paying for that. UNCA gets special funding.
There's a reason why we bring in foreign justices. There's a reason why we used to bring in foreign police officers to Belize, because familiarity breeds worse kind of corruption.
Contempt.
Everybody knows
contempt for the people.
Everybody knows everybody, and you have a problem. So you bring in people that aren't that are removed from everything, in no way connected, related, or any of that. So I believe that bringing in foreign investigators would help in that they're doing it with no axe to grind, no favor to any.
But that's not true. That's not how these things work. The United States and whoever is funding these organizations is going to get the justice they want. It is not going to be an impartial. It's not going to be an impartial justice.
But Gregory, if the justice they get is the justice that we deserve, what's the problem? They get the justice.
Justice is justice.
But that justice is the justice we are looking for.
I believe
I'm trying to be funny now, right?
I believe it will be selective prosecution, just like how they pointed out John Saldivar for what he did. I'm sure in the archive of what the United States have, they have 25 more John Saldivar.
Come get all of them. Come get all of them.
Well,
the house would be empty. which would be a very good thing.
It might not be such a bad idea.
People in there that maybe could figure out, okay, well, this won't be the consequence. They don't want no part of that, so they are trying to straighten up. So you can't take the whole horses them and put them there to guard the. No.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to make a comment on UNCA because I don't know to what extent Mr. Morrison is familiar with that body of legislation. Essentially, UNCAC is a convention, United Nations Convention against corruption.
Yes.
And basically what it is, it's a framework that Belize has signed on to.
Yes.
Right.
And it's a comprehensive framework that looks at all aspects of corruption.
That's correct.
The word has been used that we need to domesticate UNCAC. And I think it's a very, very appropriate term to use.
Yes.
Because UNCAC, if you're signed on to it, you should use it as a guideline.
Exactly.
Belize has signed on to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. What that does, it gives you a framework.
Come on, stay on UNCAC.
The board.
Stay on UNCAC.
Across the board.
Stay on UNCAC.
And so what we have done, just to give the fisheries context, we have legislation against the protection of species. We have legislation on undersize. We have legislation on blah, blah, blah. And so all I am saying is that what you should do, what we need to do is we need to look at UNCAC, and we need to legislate the laws relating to UNCAC. We need to develop our own laws in the spirit of the guidelines of UNCAC. And I think what the current government has, the problem that the current government has, is they realize the current government has used the term, we have our own solution. and I said, yeah, I know what your solution is. Your solution is like the pupillatry. But when you look at the way...
Why do you think that UDP latry? I don't think Brad that UDP.
No. Pupillatry was a solution for criminals. So the current administration realized that they can find no way around UNCAC. That is the problem. And that is why it has not moved forward. It is comprehensive. They want to be selective.
Mr. Mavitt, I think we all have a pretty good understanding of UNCA and its implementation and why none of the government, whether it was UDP or PUP, that would implement it. But this is my understanding of it. There's nothing wrong in getting UNCA to help us set up a framework of how we locally should manage it. But I do not believe we should use those foreign justices. We should use those foreign money to investigate and to prosecute and use that as the means to prosecute.
Which is why we'll keep on getting the same treatment that these guys give us.
No, let me finish.
They consider themselves to be ultimate power and are trying grabbing at the ultimate power to immunize themselves from any persecution.
Yeah.
They don't want to be held accountable for nothing that have been done or that they're doing now or will eventually end up doing. They don't want to be caught in that web because their possessions can be dispossessed. They don't want no part of that.
I agree. And that's why I'm saying UNCA should help us to set up a broad framework of how to investigate and how to go about setting up a structure to have a very transparent.
That's part of what UNCA does.
Yeah, no, but
that's part of what UNCA does.
No, but I do not like the part where they're involved in the prosecution of individuals and the selection.
Somebody got to do it.
And the
if they're criminals and they're not being and they are being given passes or they are being given what do you call it? Again like passes. At the end of the day, nobody gonna prosecute them then.
Well,
they'll continue being immune to prosecution and continue giving us the same treatment that I've been doing for so many years.
Mr. Morrison, when you said they should not be prosecuted or they should not be involved with prosecution, who is they or who are they?
I'm talking.
Who are they that you're referring to?
I'm talking the people that are financed. See what happens. UNCA sets up an entire structure of financing these prosecutions. We saw it recently in Guatemala, right?
No. You have it wrong.
We saw it recently in Guatemala, and I don't have it wrong. Okay.
All right.
That part is correct.
Can I ask you, Mr. Morrison?
It was CSIG under the same UNCA program.
What part of the UNCA framework suggests that some outside power or some monies from some source that has not been identified in the UNCA?
No, I didn't say identified. I didn't say about identified. I'm saying they.
No. So I'm asking you to show me the reference that supports what you're suggesting.
I'm saying that UNCA gets financing from the United Nations to operate in the country that they're operating in. I'm saying, yes, they do. And they get money to support the prosecution of individuals.
They get money.
Yes, they do, sir.
They get money from where? From the United States or the United Nations?
They're not getting it right now because they have not signed fully on to the they have not delivered the enabling legislation to fully bring it on board.
Well, these are projects, though.
But it has happened in other countries.
There's not a given. We have signed and we have ratified. It means that it has gone through the House.
Yeah,
right.
We have said
but we haven't developed the legislation to establish it.
We're stymieing
the legislation. We can ask for assistance, technical assistance to advise.
That's what I'm saying. Now you're on to what I'm saying, how we should treat UNCA and how we should have UNCA operate in our country. To use them as to help us set up a system of accountability, a system of justice that is transparent, and then we say bye to them. And once we have that system,
we have to have some teeth.
But the question,
we need to have some teeth.
No.
We don't have teeth. We have legislation right now that could string up some of these guys, but they won't prosecute themselves and they won't allow the Attorney General to prosecute any of them.
Hold up.
That's where we need the constitutional reform that Mr. Mavitt is sitting on, so that somehow our Attorney General is more independent of the political party.
Well,
you guys should wake me up after when they finish the constitutional reform and tell me what is it that they had actually reformed? Why is it that they had to go through the whole process of doing all of that?
But one of the things I'm looking
for what they're going to end up with.
But one of the things I'm looking for is once they appoint an Attorney General, he's in power unless he's accused, convicted of any type of malfeasance or any type of event activity that would cause him to have to.
Well, make him be electable. Let's elect him.
That could be another option too.
But here's a
I'm not
point.
opposed to that. I'm not
Here's a
opposed to
key.
that.
Here's a key question that has to be asked: Do we have to take UNCAC in its entirety, or can we extract
No, you could
from
tailor
it?
it. You could tailor it. You could
No.
tailor it.
Well,
tailor
okay.
You say, as I said, it's a guideline, G Mike.
Yeah.
If you can nitpick it, because if you nitpick it, it basically becomes ineffectual and you get no support from nobody. I believe what needs to be done is that we can do what we need to do right now. We don't need constitutional reform to draft the UNCAC legislation and implement UNCAC. We don't need.
I don't want to implement UNCAC. I don't want UNCAC.
Well, implement the domestication of UNCAC. Let me put it.
But Gregory, we've tried everything else.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
And has this? Let me ask a question. Has the experiment?
Mr. Chairman, please, UNCAC is not a singular and one-sided process. It has a lot of different angles to it and a lot of different possibilities to it.
Yes.
The point is that these guys don't want no powers above theirs to oversee and or to checkmate them.
Exactly.
And that is the problem that we're in. These guys are now trying to change the constitution because they don't like the constitution telling them that they can have and pull the constitution willy-nilly and they're not above the law, and they want to run our country by ministerial fiat. The minister will have ultimate say, and the prime minister will have the final say.
Is that the same as a banana republic?
Well, I think
that's exactly what I'm saying.
You're running ahead of yourself.
That's what you're trying to turn our country into.
I like.
And we're very close.
Hey, man, hold on, sir. Done your point. Make your point and finish it, man. Because you're going on and on and on.
You make one extra point, Mr. Chairman.
Let's come on. Let's continue. Go ahead, George.
No, I just wanted to comment on the point that Mr. Morrison made. I think he was well stated when he said you basically need a framework that supersedes the unrestricted power of ministers, and it needs to be transparent and accountable. I don't think that you could have stated it any better. And so it's a kind of local legislation that is informed by the UNCAC framework. It is not UNCAC. It needs to be a body of legislation that is informed by UNCAC. But
and staffed by who? The same people.
The same
people appointed by the same government that is so corrupt.
G-Mike, you say
UNCAC usually will bring in their own lawyers. UNCAC usually bring in their own lawyers and own.
Depends on the case.
Depends on the case. I thought you said you didn't want them in.
No, I don't want them. That's my point. But I'm telling you what UNCAC.
No, he's just explaining.
I'm telling you what UNCAC does. They bring in their own lawyers, own judges, own prosecutors, and then that legislation
that's only for the big cases, though, Mr. Morrison.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's what
that is only for the big cases, and that's why we need the help with the big cases and the big boys.
Yeah, I understand.
Are you realizing that you're saying that the implementation of UNCAC informed legislation is a surrendering of sovereignty?
Yes.
That is not what
that's
it is.
No.
That's not what it is.
A lot of people are misguided with that point.
That's what I'm saying. It is.
What it is, sir.
It is. It is.
No, Greg. No,
it is. It is.
No.
It is. It is.
The United Nations would not agree to that as a parameter.
No,
that's
what happened. That's what happened in Guatemala. That's why the president kicked him out the last time.
No, the people asked for that. The people in Guatemala asked for that because that guy was a rogue and a military hegemony.
That's what
he had control of the military.
Mr. Morrison.
That's what UNCAC is, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. UNCAC is. It causes the people to surrender the sovereignty.
No. Those people ask for help.
No, you ask for help. You ask for help, but then they come and
they were asking for help against their own government because their own government was.
Of what UNCAC is.
Morrison,
that's a different scenario.
No,
that's why I said earlier that
UNCAC requesting. Of course,
UNCAC is not just one thing. I try to explain that earlier.
I no longer want to be independent. Come and take me over, and I'll.
But Greg,
that's
no man,
exactly
that's
what-
not fair. That's not fair. That's not
That's an
fair.
extreme. That's an extreme.
I'm kidding.
First of
I'm
all,
kidding. I'm kidding when I
That's an
say that. I'm kidding.
First
when
of
I
all,
say
Legislation
that.
do we
That is also plausible, but that's an extreme.
do we need help? Do we need
Yes, we
help?
do, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Are we in bad
yes.
shape as far as
I vote that
corruption
we
is
do.
concerned?
Yes, we
We
do.
need help to draft those legislation, Mr.
Yes.
Chair,
So,
because
I believe then if we can use UNCAC in certain ways and not
An
the
advisory role.
totality
That's
of
what
it,
I'm saying.
then maybe we
The
have to
beauty
look what
about
we can
UNCAC,
get from it.
members of the panel, the beauty about UNCA is that they have long arms and they can reach into people's resources and assets where the local government don't have the ability to be able to even know where those assets are or what assets. Right now, they're complaining about they don't know who won the Bolido thing or the can, and then privatizing the body that's going to determine who gets information or doing. It's a bunch of craziness. They're just swatching each other's back.
yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Brackett, if we had UNCAC informed legislation, that would not be possible.
Exactly.
That would not wash if you have UNCAC legislation, because it's obviously a destination for corruption. That whole Bolido Alatre business.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, let's go to 8:30. I had a long day. In fact,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Chair, this I don't know if CY gonna sleep, but we have this photos, this poster of you on screen.
and you don't, and you're complaining.
No,
What's wrong with that?
no. I don't know if it's a misstep.
I no. You just put it up. I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping that we. I see. Our clock conking, so we are on. Let's and we not have to look for you. You don't have to look for me. I wish I never me. Could just show the lady, and that will be fine.
No.
I don't know that what.
Mr. Chairman, you are making people ban with sure.
We have an audience, and I'm just saying that I don't know if this is what you want to portray on the show. I mean, I thought that he would have just put up these kind of posters and then move on. But maybe that if that is the norm, then it is the norm.
No. It is not. It is. I think.
I'm just asking.
I think he must have put that there and stepped away and then come back directly. Because
Maybe not.
listen. All right, but anyway, I think the content of what we're saying. I'm not. I don't like that picture actually.
No. I'm not complaining about the picture.
I've not been looking at it. I have not been looking.
I'm not complaining about the picture.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the norm of the show is that you see us conversing, and there are people who are tuned in, and they don't know who G Mike is, and they don't know who Mr. Morrison is, or my very good colleague on this show, Mr. Brackett.
Yeah.
You're es dulce. Es dulce. Gentlemen, I must say, and this is part of the conversation I want to have also about the winter solstice.
Yes.
And the fact that we're at a new beginning.
Yes.
This is, in fact, I believe, the real Christmas and the real New Year. Christmas because it is the rebirth of the sun, which I believe is most significant, and the other story is just an allegory to highlight this one. And a new, of course, new year, because a new cycle begins as the earth stops for a minute and then puts the tilt on the other side. And I find it amazing that is done so that every inch of the earth gets some sunlight at some point throughout the revolution and rotation. I can't see that as just having happened.
Mr. Chair,
Can
I inject a little bit of geography?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Geography?
No. The man was.
You see, when you look at the development of civilization, much of the power came from the north. It's the OECD countries. It's basically the Europeans, and they're saying that this is the shortest day,
Right.
Mr. Chair, but it's not.
Well, wait.
Make I finish. For people living north of the equator, it is the shortest day. For people living south of the equator, it is the longest day because the seasons are inverted. I was in Australia a couple of years ago around this time. And what the Australians have as we speak, it's the height of summer. It's the longest day in Australia. But
Listen,
in the northern hemisphere,
everything is
that we
basically
that
everything
we
is
think
inverted.
it's universal.
But
It
is
takes
it?
the shortest day.
Hold up. For us, is it the longest day? Is it the shortest day?
For us north of the equator, it is the shortest day.
For us here, right?
Yeah, for the people
Right.
south of the equator, it is the longest day.
All right. So let them celebrate. Let them celebrate their own solstice. I
Yeah.
think for me
Yeah,
the marvel of it,
the
the marvel of it is that here's this earth, just a ball hanging in space, in nothingness, going around the sun, but turning in a way that every spot on the earth gets some sunlight at some point. Do you think that just happened?
Yes, it just happened.
It
The
just
Earth is
happened. I
tilted
see.
at 23.5 degrees.
Exactly, and
it's on
nothing.
south axis, which is what gives us the seasons.
Right.
Are you aware, Mr.
And
Mr.
that
Chairman,
and it
that
just
Neptune-
happened.
Yeah, are you aware that Neptune is tilted 90 degrees? Neptune
Yeah.
spins
It's on the side.
So much of the planets are not like straight up relative to the sun.
But they don't continue around the sun, don't they? All
They-
go.
They all continue, but I'm just making the point that the tilting of the axis of the Earth is not special, or it's not unique to the Earth.
It changes.
Actually, all of the
It changes
planets
and has been
It's
changing.
something that happens throughout our solar system, and I would like to think throughout the universe, now that we know with certainty that the sun is just a medium-sized star, and all the stars that you see have planets around them. And so, Mr. Chair, there might be somebody in Proxima Centauri saying, "I wonder what those things are doing."
You carry the man too deep, Mr. Marvin. You overdo it now.
You know,
You're being unkind.
you know.
I'm not negating
No.
the score that you lay by the solstice.
No,
I'm
let
simply saying
us.
that when you look at it from the broader context, it's not as special as we would like to think.
Is it you mean so Christmas now? You believe is the special day?
Well, we have celebrated it
But Christmas is a farce.
in traditionally, Mr. Chair, and I know people like go about the fact that Jesus was born on Holy Thursday and all kind of variation, but really I don't think that there's any solid proof one way or the other. Some of the atheists that I know, my good friend Bill Maher, Icon Bill Maher, doesn't think that Jesus existed any at all. How about that?
Well, I mean, everybody has a right to their opinion. I mean,
yeah, well,
that I don't think he exists. I think again it was allegorical to what happens with the sun and the earth, and that in fact at this point the solstice, which means standing still, it stops for a minute and then starts back the other way. Now, whether you're talking about the hemisphere or the other hemisphere, but that is a fact that has happened, and I mean, history has written about it ad nauseum.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I, with your permission again,
Whose history?
and another
Look who it is.
if this is the Earth, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, if my face, well, there, all right, I don't know if you could see
Where
this.
the picture? I wonder where they go and
No, the
see one.
picture is covering everything.
Yeah, and this is, but if my face, are you seeing my face?
No,
I
we
mean,
don't want to see your face.
I don't even want to imagine your face.
Well, there you see, you're making light of something that I was trying to explain to you.
All right, let's look at the face. Let's imagine the face.
Keep
That's
your
right,
face,
that's right,
right? Keep your
Mr. Chair.
face.
I think that you're an enemy of science.
If it starts coming at me, though, I will.
I think you're an enemy of science, and much of the rational discourse that we have been having on this program.
No,
But
Are
I
you
don't
calling
blame
the man a
you.
Luddite?
No,
You
no,
have
no.
been consistent.
No,
You have
no.
been consistent.
I
So
am.
I understand.
Let's look at it this way. I'm looking for ways to believe. You're looking for ways to disbelieve.
No. I'm looking
I
for
know
ways.
what I want to believe in. You don't even know what you want to disbelieve in.
No, I don't. It's not a belief system.
It
It's
is.
a fact.
Mr. Marvin,
It is belief. It is
Mr.
belief.
Marvin,
It's a
you will get
fact-based
converted, you
system.
know.
It's a
The
fact-based
chairman
system.
gonna convert you.
I will have him
No, you
praying.
can't convert me to the darkness.
You will
You
be
know-
in church every Sunday.
You know what?
You
But you
can't
know
convert
what?
me to
You
the
know what
darkness,
amazes
Mr.
me?
Mike.
You know what amazes me?
You know what the Reformation was about, Mr. Mike?
Yes, sir.
You know what the Reformation was about?
Yes, sir.
Man, why
It
you
was
gonna go
about-
there now?
it was
We're
a-
ending in 5 minutes.
You mean the age
Mr.
of
Chair.
enlightenment? The age of
Mr. Chair,
enlightenment?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
do you know when Galileo invented the telescope,
Uh-huh.
the Catholic Church wanted to put him to death?
Well,
Galileo basically said that the Earth is not the center of the universe. The Earth is one of a number of planets that goes around the sun.
All right.
And
and
Galileo
He was
had
correct.
And
yeah,
they
he was
made him
absolutely
drink
right.
well,
poison.
listen.
But you
Listen.
see, if G Mike was living in those days, I believe that Galileo would not have lived.
But here's the thing. No.
If he was one of the prosecutors, them,
See, before that, you had all kinds of.
Galileo would have been
This-
kaput.
This is what true evolution is about. We've come up to believing.
but
We've
Mr. Marvin,
grown up.
Mr. Chairman, I want to
Yes.
come to your defense, sir.
But
May I?
Should I be scared?
No. This one is going to be good.
He might give you a back slap, you know.
Um, No. Long before Galileo invented the telescope,
Copernicus.
there were people who knew that the world was wrong and there were other globes out there in our solar system, at least to that extent.
Yep.
They were
And
observers.
We have evidence of it. We have evidence. The Mayan knew that.
Exactly.
Well,
not only that,
the Egyptians
the Egyptians, they knew that.
But look at
And before the
Stonehenge.
Egyptians, the Africans, they knew that.
Look
Yeah.
at Stonehenge. Where's
Yeah, exactly.
Stonehenge?
Yep, exactly.
And built with the very solstice in mind.
Yeah.
That it lines up exactly. You know, the one thing where I'm not trying to convert you, George. Heaven knows.
You go on back again. I'll try to defend you. I'll
Yeah,
try to save you.
I
You
conversion.
will put your head back in the
How
I was
could you?
worried
How
because-
would
Oh,
you say that?
man.
we would have needed to a second Reformation.
You know. Anyway, people.
Yes.
I'm
but-
tired
but
of
you-
looking at that picture.
But
Also.
Mr. Chair, somebody said 5 minutes left. Can I prevail on you to maybe ask the panelists to give us a Yuletide message? I hesitate to use the word Christmas because it sounds like you might have your own views of what gives.
I think we all do. I think we all do on this show, which is interesting because all four of us seem to have different views and the whole story of Christmas.
But I do know that Belize is Christmas is special, whether you believe or not.
And I go along with that.
I just wanted to know if can I prevail on you to ask that?
I don't see a problem.
In closing, we give some kind of message of peace and
By all
and
means.
love and all that is good that we have
By all
enjoyed growing up.
By all
Mr.
means.
Marvin, before we get to that point, sir, can I prevail on you to have the members of the panel realize that the whole Christmas issue is one of a bamboozling process, and that even Santa Claus himself, as
Oh, come on now. You're not
It's
going
not
to
Santa Claus, we don't know Santa Claus.
Hold up.
Come on, come
You
on.
want to force your opinion on the rest of us. We all agreed that we have different ideas about this.
Come on now.
And none can claim theirs to be right or the others to be wrong. So I know that mine to be right, and I know to try it. So you can't try it neither.
Well, we have a Europeanized. We hate the British and we hate the Europeans. Then, but we subscribe
Why not?
heavily to a Europeanized perspective of what reality is,
Nobody hates
depending
anybody.
on
I mean,
whose
I
reality you're using for judgment,
no
for
nobody.
debate. So
I don't hate any of those people that you're calling out. I don't. And,
we're
and
trying to
I
we're trying to
believe
get rid of them out of the constitution
I
because we don't want
believe.
to be beholden to any of
I
them.
just
So
want to
how do you
hold the
tie that in?
European.
That's a bridge too far.
I
Yeah,
just want
yeah.
to
Go.
hold it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I just
Who's
want to
going
hold the British
first?
and the French accountable for their actions. That's all. But there's
Right.
no hate. There's no hate.
Right.
I
All
just
right.
wanted to say that I'm glad to see that in Belize they're having the Christmas cheer and helping out those families that really find it hard at this time to make ends meet and to take care of their family needs. So I want to wish all of the people of Belize and the United States and just the whole world just a Merry Christmas. And I do believe in Christmas because of what it stands for, not for what it is, but what it stands for. It means for me the renewal, it means for me the rebirth and the coming together. And for that, I say Merry Christmas.
All right.
Happy return, sir.
Leonard, you want to go?
I'll wait until after Mr. Marvitt. Otherwise, Mr. Marvitt and anyhow, make a start elaborate. Like you always say, Mr. Chairman. I'll wait till after Mr. Marvitt if that's an option.
I would identify with the points made by Mr. Morris, by Mr. Morrison, that Christmas in Belize is very special. I believe that traditionally it's really a time of giving. And I think to the point that Mr. Morris made that he likes the Christmas cheers. The politicians, you could say a lot of bad things about them, and you could put any spin on anything. But I'll tell you that both sides of the major parties have a tradition of basically sending to their constituents ham and turkey and various gifts. And I think that in a country that is marked by poverty, some people don't understand how far that this can go. It's not only ham and turkey, but I think it's also the gift giving. Salvation Army is there. Just Saturday past, we had a very spectacular parade that was no less than an hour long. And to me, what it brought out was a real celebratory response of the Belizean people. There was fun, there was merrymaking, and I have to say that in this parade, which was a relief, there was really no gunshots. And so I think that that is consistent with my view of what Christmas is. I remember growing up, there are times when sometimes you and your neighbor no get on. And I can recall that as a boy, my mother, man don't have problem with man. Usually the lady didn't have problem. I can recall that my mother made a special effort to reach out to people whom she may have had a difficulty with. Go to their house and shake their hand on Christmas. And so to me, the joy of Christmas and the values of our culture. My friend, now deceased, Bert Tucker once said that he saw Belize as a sanctuary for humanity. I'll tell you that I have had the opportunity to travel quite a bit. And there's something in the Belizean character where we not really complain. We like real up, but we not really complain. I see people make the best of small things. And I think that is a part of what keeps us strong, because Belize is strong. And I want to say that whether you're a churchgoer or not, I believe that there's not much enmity in the heart of all people, especially come Christmas time. And I just reflect on the fact that I would hope that Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, could prevail throughout the year, but it doesn't. But I would say in wishing everybody, including Belizeans at home and abroad, not only a Merry Christmas, but a prosperous New Year, and may the spirit of the Yuletide prevail going forward throughout the New Year. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
sir, Mr. Brackett, you're
Yes,
up.
sir. Okay, thank you. Uh, I'm gonna be the person gonna rein the negative into the process, as usual, controversial. I was in Belize recently for about 10 weeks, during which I was doing quite a few things, some personal, some political, and some charitable, and others. The bottom line is that every time when I make my trips to Belize, I usually do a little rainmaking in my neighborhood and in other neighborhoods. It so happened that when I went on this particular trip, I did the same thing as I would normally do. And realizing that the need was greater than many other times before, I kind of overstretched myself. Not realizing that just a little bit after I reached there, I would have been facing my first hurricane, real hurricane, and thereafter seeing additional needs by the people. I would wish that the politicians don't only just take the money that the government provides for them to do their Christmas cheers, but that just to take some money out of their pockets and add to what the government gives them for their Christmas cheers and expand their effort, because the effort is laudable for those who do it, and I think most of them do it, but it ought to be done more. Personally, after the hurricane, I realized that the need was great again, and so I double dipped and went overboard to the point where now Christmas, which I also celebrate, like as I told Mr. Chairman before, and which I believe in, but I do Christmas all year round most of the time, not for myself but for others. My existence is about trying to help others and do for others. I'm not waiting for others to do for me. I've been put in that position or that situation, and therefore I just carry on because it's a privilege that I've been granted. But this coming Christmas, which is the negative part of what I was about to say as I prefaced before, is going to be kind of bone dry for a lot of people who would be expecting me to stretch my hand as I normally would do at this time of the year, because I did not wait for Christmas to do what I needed to do and what needed to be done. I did it when it was most urgently needed. And for that, I realized that I will not be able to do my Christmas things as I normally would do. And a lot of people are going to be looking forward to getting something. And many of them, I'm not saying all of them, but many of them will not get. Because while the heart is willing, the pocket is just so light. And therefore, all I could say is Merry Christmas to everybody. A happy and prosperous New Year as well. And may the New Year, may God bless us all to live into the New Year and be able to do a little better than we did this year. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being the chairman of the program and taking us this far, knowing that we don't have no other program next week, and this is the end of the program for the year. And I would like to thank Mr. Young for initiating this process where we could have come together, people of diverse mindset, knowledge base, and an interest in the well-being of our country. Despite political differences, despite economic differences, despite a wide spectrum of differences, we have been able to make this program work, and I hope it works even better for the next coming year. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. First of all, well, let me just say it's a good thing you're not the only one giving. The giving will continue. There are a lot of people out there giving. And the politicians in particular, I don't know which part they get so much ham, but a lot of ham they give away. This year it seemed a lot more than normal. As Myvet has said that Mr. Myvet, I'm sorry, sir.
No.
As Mr. Myvet has said, it shows that there's still a spirit of goodwill even in the worst of them, the politicians, we know they're worthless, corrupt, and greedy. But it seems that at Christmas, I like Christmas because it's a time of the year where the grouchiest a person will stop and say hello. And the most miserable people will give me the time of the day and a smile. I remember one time being in LA, and I was riding down the street on a bike, and it was a Christmas day, and there was just a good feeling that came over me, and it was a feeling that I knew was not just personal, that almost one universal feeling that, and I always feel that when a lot of people are feeling good at the same time, it's a almost palpable kind of a thing where you know it exists. So I like that idea. I like the idea of just like Thanksgiving, where everybody get together and give thanks at the same time. Everybody at Christmas time feel good. The whole concept of the birth of Jesus, I believe, has been shown up, having lots of holes in it. But at the same token, the spirit of what we're talking about, as opposed to the letter of all of this and what is written and all of that, the spirit of it, of people coming together and spreading cheer and goodwill, and everybody feeling happy just for being alive. Folks, Merry Christmas and a very happy and prosperous 2023. God be praised. Amen.
Amen.
Come on.
Thank you, sir.
Amen.
Very good.
Mr. Young? Mr. Young? Mr. Young, are you still on?